Hi there, this is James Tripp. Welcome to this video, which is on Trance Repertoires. Trance Repertoires. Now, I've actually just made this video a couple of times. I decided to record it again for a third time because I want to tighten it up a bit. I want to get clear about where we're going and what the function of this video is. So what I'm going to be sharing with you in this video is fundamental to how we experience ourselves, how we experience life, and the results that we get. If you're a hypnotist who helps people make changes, this is fundamental because the nature of your work, the way we're going to be looking at this and conceptualizing this here, is to be assisting people in changing the trances that run their lives, the trances they live through every day. If you have an interest in transforming yourself in terms of how you're showing up, how you're engaging, the results that you're creating in the world, the experiences you're having, if you're interested in this relates to you too, because trance, the way I'm using trance here is very specific and quite different from how hypnotists normally use it. The way hypnotists normally use the term trance is to describe a special state that somebody is put into and in which they become extra responsive to suggestions. So you can put these suggestions in and it will change things for them and all of this kind of thing. Now, if you've read Hypnosis Beyond the Trance Myth, which is available through the Hypnosis Without Trance website, and I'm sure most of the people watching this video have, you will know that I debunk this idea of trance for a variety of reasons. And I want to make it clear that's not what I'm talking about, that kind of trance. When I'm talking about trance here, I'm using the term poetically to describe any state that you drop into from which automatic sort of behaviors and responses emerge. And specifically states that you drop into that match particular contexts. So you might have a context, let's keep a really simple one. Let's talk about a spider phobia. So the context is seeing a spider. There's a particular state that emerges from which predictable behaviors and responses will come out of it. So it might be a state of that they might call fear, and the behaviors that come out of it are tightening the breath and running away, moving away. So there's a little trance complex there. And if you start looking at your life, what you'll start seeing is you live your life through a trance repertoire. A trance repertoire, a collection of trances that you have access to that fit the range of situations you find yourself in your life. And when you drop into that, you're going to react accordingly. You're going to react predictably. We're patterned as human beings. We walk the way we walk, we talk the way we talk, we laugh at the same kinds of humour, this kind of thing. Just think of a little limerick. I think it's a limerick from Alan Watts that goes, "There was a young man who said, 'Damn, I'm beginning to see that I am a creature that moves in determinate grooves. I'm not even a bus, I'm a tram.'" And this is pointing to the idea that we have this trance repertoire, that we drop into these predictable trances from which these behaviors emerge. And here's the thing, your life as you have it right now, and particularly the recurring patterns in your life, is perfectly as it is in accordance with the trances that you live through. Because these trances shape how you show up and engage with the world, they shape the results that you get. It's all about your trances. Now, we have an experience often of being conscious entities, but for myself, even when I'm freely thinking, I'm just there, I don't seem to be in a particular context. I still have kind of a default sort of a trance. I was saying to James Sakalos, I'm up in Edinburgh at the moment, James Sakalos is here running Spiral Somatics, which is a fantastic training. At my resting state, you put me in the corner of a room, I won't get bored. Why? Because I drop into a particular trance, which is a trance of connecting ideas. You may be unsurprised to hear that if you watch my videos. But that's pretty predictable. I don't get bored. Some people will get bored when they don't have anything to do. I don't get bored. We run different trances. So I don't want to have to do too much here to sell you on the idea of a trance repertoire. I do want to say something else about trances. A couple of other things about trances. Number one, the nature of a trance is a sort of narrowing of bandwidth. And I've said this elsewhere. Let's take the example of the spider phobic again. The person who's spider phobic has a range of possible responses in life to all manner of things. There's all sorts of things they know. There's all sorts of ways they can feel. Yet in that moment, everything narrows and they drop into this trance tunnel and they get caught up in it. This is the nature of trance. It has us. It takes us. In the moment, we're swept along by it. So, as Alan Watts says, you're not a bus, you're a tram. You end up in the grooves. And there's a narrowing. And what gets lost is everything else that you are when you drop into a particular trance. Now, this may sound like a bad thing, but it's not always a bad thing. Most of the time, it's a good thing. It is a good thing. If you think about anything you do well, when you do it well, you will drop into a particular, what might be called a performance state, a flow state, whatever. You drop into a trance that does what you do well perfectly. Does what you do well perfectly. So all high performance states are trances. And in a sense, all trances are high performance states. So again, going back to the spider phobic, they're in a high performance spider phobia trance. They will perform perfectly the acts of feeling fear and running away. All trances are high performance states. But here's the thing. The real question is when you rock back from the trance, when you step into your higher self, into what I call your transcendent self, your transcendent self, the you that transcends all your trances. When you connect into that, the question is that trance serving me? Is that trance serving me in terms of the bigger picture of your life? And these are the places that you may want to change things. So that's the first point there about trances, is a narrowing of bandwidth. The second point is they are all high performance states. The third point that I want to make here is that all trances are underpinned by conceptualization. That is how you categorize, how you make sense of the world in any given moment or any given context. So I said states emerge from context, but it's how you unconsciously conceptualize that context, that happening, that dictates the trance that emerges. Now let me just say something about concepts and conceptualization. When we're born, we don't really have any concepts. It's possible we have simple concepts around space. It's not really known. We may develop some, start to conceptualize in the womb around space and this kind of thing. But essentially, let's just keep it simple and say we're born with no concepts of the world. Not even the concept of self versus other. When we come into the world, we've got some reflexes. We've got grasp reflex, suckle reflex, basic things. We cry when we're hungry in order to recruit help. But we don't think about it like that because we can't conceptualize that way. So we've got these basic instincts and reflexes. And I've said this elsewhere, I like to think that we have what you might call a meaning-making instinct or reflex as well. And it's from this we start to create a map of the world, a model of the world, sets of understandings about the world. This is what conceptualization is. We start to build concepts. Maybe one of the first concepts we have is self versus other. I'm not the same as this, And we build richer and richer concepts, and they shape our ways of showing up and engaging with the world, or build our trance repertoires, if you like. So by the time we're adults, we have what you might call a model of the world through which we navigate life. But the way this pragmatically shows up is through a repertoire of trances. Your model of the world or map of the world shows up through a repertoire of trances, and it is through these that you bring yourself to bear upon life. So all trances are underpinned by concepts and conceptualization. And you see this come out in a lot of places. In parts work, they talk about a part of you that part of you is really a set of conceptualizations. In, say, Jungian depth psychology, they talk about complexes. These complexes are collections of conceptualizations from which certain predictable responses emerge. This is important to know because if you want to change a trance, you have to change the conceptual organization that underpins it. This is what I call the matrix of the trance. This comes from David Grove. And this is what I'm teaching, by the way, in the Las Vegas workshop, which is called Enter the Matrix. It's talking about getting into the unconscious conceptualizations that underpin the trance so that you can change that as a practitioner. You can help somebody else change it. And there's ways of doing that, really effective ways of doing that, consistent ways of doing that, if you're a practitioner, ways that unfortunately you can't work on yourself. You can't run on yourself. So if you're going to get into the unconscious conceptualizations that lie underneath your own trances, you need a different approach. And this is what the self-hypnosis and personal alchemy training in London is about. It's about that different approach. They're doing the same thing but in very different ways, because when you self-facilitate, you have to access a different set of choices. So this is the key. The key is to get into the conceptual underpinnings and shift them. And that is not always a logical, linear, in fact it very rarely is, sort of left brain activity, so to speak. It's an art, it's a craft in and of itself, however you do it. And these are the things that particularly interest me in teaching. Last thing I'll say about these concepts and conceptualizations is they are pre-linguistic. They are not the words that we use to represent them. So as soon as we start to uncover these conceptualizations, which incidentally are not easy to see, they're very challenging to see, because when we drop into the trance, we're literally seeing the world through them. And you cannot see what you're seeing the world through. So it takes a certain amount of artistry and understanding and skill to bring these to the surface within yourself, or if you're working with somebody else to do so, so that you can get in and change them. But what I want to say in this video, the message I want to bring to you in this video is, whatever trances you're running in your life, when you step back into your higher self and you look and you think, is this serving me? Is that trance serving me? Is that trance serving me? The ones that you want to change are perfectly changeable. They are completely changeable. There are no trances that are not changeable. Now, that isn't to say we don't have certain instinctual material and certain reflexive material that plays in and shapes our behavior to a certain degree, but that's always refined through conceptualization into the trances you experience. There is not a single trance that you run that is not changeable. That's the way it goes. That's the way we work as human beings. And this is something I often end up saying to clients. I often end up saying, you know, I know we've only just met, but there's one thing I know that is absolutely true. This thing that you want to change, you have every possibility of changing it. This is totally doable. You can change this. And I often go on to say, now I know you think you're a special case of messed up and this doesn't apply to you and you've had it for a long time, but it doesn't change the fact that you can change this. And I can tell you this not because I know you personally, but I can tell you this because you are a human being. And it is part of our fundamental makeup. It is part of what makes us human beings, that we can participate in the transformation and evolution of our trances. Hell, we participated in the creation of them in the first place, albeit unconsciously. So we can do this. We can change these trances. You see, it's part of the fundamental nature of being a human being, like certain aerodynamic properties are part of the fundamental nature of an aeroplane. And if they're not there, it's not an aeroplane, and it falls out of the sky. So if you don't have this capacity, you're not a human being. You can't even function. So you have the capacity to transform your trances. You have the capacity to show up and engage with the world through a different modified set of trances, evolved set. This means you get to change your experiences, you get to change your behaviors, you get to change the pattern consistent results that you're getting. And this, in my view, is pretty good news. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm probably going to do some follow-up videos on this, maybe looking more at the personal alchemy side, maybe doing one for practitioners of change work on entering the matrix that sits underneath the trance from which the trance emerges. But in the meantime, if you have any questions that come up as a result of watching this, please do feel free to make use of the comments section. If you want to book on either one of those trainings, go ahead. You'll find links near this video where you can go through. You can book on. Be fantastic to have you on board. I think that's pretty much all that needs to be said. So until we speak again, take very good care of yourself.